somewhere, and then you guys can have access to that. Um, so first, I want to talk real quick about express offers, just because Candace went through that. I know a couple other people on this call have kind of entertained the um, process of going through it. I don't think anyone has actually completed it, meaning the end investor buying it. If you guys have a seller that wants to have a cash offer, you can go through EXP Express offers. If you've never done it, send me a text and I will send you the Canva step-by-step process that EXP created and then the link that you'll need to actually submit it. But once you get the offer back, you will be representing the seller if they decide to move forward. So that's one thing to clarify. Essentially, how that would work within conversation. This is how I had to do it when I was working with the hedge fund. Was yes, technically I'm bringing you the buyer, but in order for this transaction to go through, I'm going to legally have to represent you on the selling side, right? Because the investor already has their own representation. We just know of this buyer and they're willing to partner with us on deals in order to buy homes. And so you just need to make sure that seller knows that you would be representing them in order for this to actually go through. Um, the other thing you're going to get is you're going to get four options, and I don't have them in front of me. But once you guys get those four options, there's going to be a button that says View Offer Details. And the biggest thing here is to remind the seller that this is just a verbal. If they agree to the verbal, then we'll put everything in writing, and then the process is, right, inspection. Typically, the investors are probably going to beat them up even more and drop that price down. But one option is like a cash plus. Candace, do you have it in front of you? Actually, you texted me, so I can just pull it up real quick. One offer is like a cash plus. That's like a partnership type offer. And what that means is they're going to get an upfront amount. Like, here's what you're going to get upfront. And when we fix this up and we go to sell it, we'll split some of the proceeds with you. So there'll be like two payouts for that seller. Here's one to purchase now, and then once we fix it up, we're gonna price it up here to sell it, and we'll split the difference. And so that's what they call the cash plus. That's gonna be the way that the seller nets the most money possible out of this whole equation. The second one is sell now, move later. This is a situation where they'll buy the house cash and then allow for a rent back situation to happen. So that would be good for those people that have home sale contingencies, but they don't need to maximize equity or what they're walking away with. And then there's a cash offer, and the cash offer is just straight up cash offer. Here's the cash offer, and I don't have the fourth one, but it's a I can't remember. It's like cash. Candace, do you remember what it is?
I didn't get four. I just got those three.
Okay, so maybe they got rid of the fourth option. So then there used to be four. So there might be just those three, right? So here's what it looks like if you partner with us. Here's what it looks like to buy now and rent from us. And then here's what the straight up cash offer looks like. And in Candace's situation, the partnership offer was about 40 $39,000 more than the cash offer option. And again, this is just verbal. Expect for that number to probably go down. This is how investors work, right? And so if you guys just have that seller, just let them know. The reality is this isn't probably going to be a thing that 90% of people are going to accept, right? This is going to be a certain type of seller that's going to want this type of thing. But you will be representing the seller on that type of transaction through express offers. Any questions on that before we dive into the training?
Yeah, sorry, I missed part of that. I didn't realize I was in the meeting, um, or not all the way in. So I have a family looking to sell their home. We're probably going to do a short sale just because of how much they owe on it. How do I make sure that I get involved in that transaction when they visit Express Offers?
Well, you don't have them visit express offers, you do it for them. So you'll want them to send you photos of the house. More photos, the better. Or you can go over there and take photos of the house, and I'll text you the Canva walkthrough. But essentially, when you fill it out, you want to put there'll be a spot for their contact info, but we want your email because we want them to send you the offer so that you can then present it to the seller. Does that make sense? If you put in their email, then they're going to get the offer and it's going to go right to them. So I'll text you the Canva um, link and the walkthrough.
Okay, thank you. I misunderstood that. I told them to fill it out themselves.
Okay, cool. Any other questions? So today I wanted to talk to you guys. How many people know or heard of Tony Robbins? Barb's heard of Tony. Anyone else
I
ever
have.
heard of Tony? Yes, yes, yes. Anyone who has not heard of Tony Robbins?
Yeah, I've heard of them.
One, I would say if you guys ever have the chance to experience this, it's not a real estate conference. Go to one of his Unleash the Power Within. I think he's back to doing them in person. Ryan and I had an opportunity to go pre-COVID with one of his broker friends from Louisiana and his team. And it's not a cheap ticket. They're like $1,500. I'm sure they've probably gone up since. But if you want to understand a different level of how your body and mind can think based off of environment and based off of moving your body, that is one of the most powerful conferences that you could probably go to. And I'm talking about like you're in an arena type setting. I think there was like 6 or 7 thousand people. You go from like 8 a.m. I think the longest day is the Friday or the Saturday where you're done at 1:30 a.m. That's also the time if you've seen people walk on hot coals. That's that day where you walk across hot coals barefoot. Um, and so it's just interesting because we have more reserves of energy and just within our body than we even know. There's hardly any food available at the concession stands. You stand probably 70 to 80% of the time. You're not sitting and you're constantly moving. So it's just an interesting and unique experience for you guys to dive into. But I bring that up because today I want to talk to you about the success cycle that Tony Robbins has, as well as the four-step buyer process. So who has something that they are so what's the right word? That they believe so much in that no one can convince them otherwise of something. Do you guys all have something that you believe to your core to be true and no one can convince you otherwise?
Yes.
Whether that's a belief, whether that's a habit. For me, right, that's internet leads when it comes from the business sense, right? Like no one could ever tell me for the rest of my life that internet leads don't work. And it's because of what I'm about to show you guys. Um, I'm about to show you guys here with Tony Robbins. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to, this is a quick, like 1 minute video that explains this, and then we can talk about it. Hopefully, you guys can hear it.
Or you try to diet, it didn't work out well. You don't feel certain anymore, and you're also fearful of failing. So when you're uncertain, do you tap full potential? Yes or no? No. And when you don't think it's going to work, you not only don't take full potential, but are you going to take massive action when you think it's not going to work anyway? So when you use little potential with little action, what kind of results are you going to get? Lousy results. When you get lousy results, what does it do to your belief? Your brain goes, see, I told you it wouldn't work. See, I told you nothing never happened. See? And then what happens? Less potentials tapped, less action, worse results, and now you're on the downward spiral. Who's ever been there in a relationship or with your body, your finances, you know what I mean? Now, you might be doing well in one area, like with your kids, you got great movement, but maybe on your finances, not so good. So sometimes we're going in different directions. So how would you change this? What would you guys do? Someone yell it out. What would you do to change the momentum? Where would you?
So let me go back to where we can see this. These are the four things that you need to generate success, right? And it can have the opposite, right? And so what he doesn't necessarily share in here, for me, in order for us to start seeing results and doing things the right way and all of those things, is you're going to be at a different point than someone else. For example, someone might start taking action because they understand or can see the larger potential that is going to come. Some people might need to start on the action block, right, to then be able to see the results. Some people might want to see results first from others before they actually start building a belief. And so I think you're going to start in different areas potentially, depending on who you are, your personality, and all of those things. But what Tony doesn't say, but what he is saying is that the right potential creates the right action. The right actions create the right results. The right results create the belief system, right? And the stronger your beliefs become, now you unlock a higher potential, right? And as you unlock the higher potential, now you're going to want to take more of the right action. And it just continues to go. And this can be on anything. This could be health. This could be finances. This could be real estate, right? This could be relationships. This could be whatever it is. Obviously, we're here to talk about, business and real estate and all of those things. And so when you think about like, how can I have success in this thing that I'm doing, whether it's door knocking, open houses, social media, calling expires, calling internet leads, working my SOI, doing networking events, doing seminars, webinars, whatever it is, like it comes down to these four things. Now, what Tony believes is that belief system and certainty. The majority of people need certainty in their lives. There's only a handful of people, and you probably know the people that like have no clue what's going on with the world, with the life. Like they're just whatever, 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 right? They're all over the place, spaced out. Like those are people that live in a life of uncertainty, right? But the majority of humans, they need certainty in their life. You guys all got into real estate for a reason, right? You guys all joined EXP for a reason. You guys all joined your teams for a reason, right? And was it because of potential? Was it because of your beliefs and the certainty? Was it because you were seeing someone else do the results? Or was it because you saw someone else doing the actions? Now, you then have to start in one of those blocks. And that's why, for me, when I sit down with real estate agents that are thinking about joining our team, or if they talk to me about building a business, it comes down to one, for me, a core belief is that no one can tell me internet leads don't work, period, right? Because that's my belief. My belief is certainty, right? And then I saw the potential as my business started to grow. And then it made me want to take more of the right action, making phone calls, getting better at my scripts, doing better follow up, right? Studying how sales work, studying how to interact, speed and tonality, right? Taking more of the right actions, which then generated more of the results that I was looking for. And so the opposite can be true. If you guys are taking the wrong action or inconsistent action, you're then going to get wrong results or inconsistent results, which are then going to change your belief system on how you're doing the business, right? It's going to create less certainty, which then is going to impact the potential that you see in doing the business that way, which then is going to cause you to take even more of that less action. And it's just a cycle. And so anytime that I get into a rut or there's a period in the business where things are just slow, it comes back down to the belief system of how I built the business. And when I talk to agents about business pillars and I say, "Hey, you can't do one. One's dangerous, right? We can't do more than three." And it's because I need those three business pillars or those two business pillars to be a core belief in how you do the business. It has to be a fundamental pillar of how you're going to build your business. Because when there are those low moments or those slow periods of time where deals just aren't happening, and sometimes in our world, like we do everything right and we still don't get the right result, I need you to fall back on that belief system and the potential, right, that you see by doing the business that way. Because that's going to be the thing that should get you back on track. And so I hope that this you kind of take a screenshot of it, you memorize it, you think about it because it really comes down to these four things. Does anyone have any questions on the success cycle? No questions so far. Okay, so now I want to share another core belief that I have. And this is the four-step buyer process. And I think it's one of those things, my team's tired of hearing it, but I think it's one of those things that you guys got to get back to. And if you're not doing this, then we need to be doing this. Let me zoom in a little bit. Let me zoom out a little bit. This is not working. Here we go. We'll make this work. Okay. So another core belief of mine is every buyer should go through this process in this order. Step one is everyone deserves 30 minutes of your time. That's just a fundamental belief for me. And what that means on the buyer side is that you're going to do that showing, right? Like you're not asking them like to get pre-approved ahead of time. You're not creating more friction before you get to the property. It's, hey, I'm going to show up. Everyone gets 30 minutes of my time. Now, there's going to be points where like if they no show you or if they're late or whatever the case may be, there's going to be red flags. Do you have a one strike policy, a two strike policy, a three strike policy? For me, I'm a two strike policy guy with clients that come late and or don't show up. Meaning, hey, if it happens one time, cool, let's talk about it. If it happens a second time, hey, just so you know, right? Like if you miss another one, I'm not your agent anymore. But everyone gets 30 minutes of my time. If you guys just adopt that philosophy, and get in front of more people, you're gonna have more closings, you're gonna have more conversations, and you're gonna have more opportunities to build relationships. Now, the second step, and this is where skill comes in, is now you're getting them to do that buyer consultation. I believe best is in person at your office. Second best is in person at a public place. I personally prefer like a Panera Bread. I don't like Starbucks. I really don't like coffee shops just because they're usually too noisy. They're compact. There's a lot of people typically in there where they can get distracted. So, like for me, Panera is a little bit more spaced out, and you can kind of have more of that intimate conversation. The third best option is a Zoom, and I personally never do it at a showing. And the reason why I never do it at a showing is because they're never paying attention 100% of the time. And when you're doing the consultation, right, this is your time to truly educate them on what's happening in the market, who you are, what are some of the value adds you and your team and our brokerage are bringing to the table. It's your opportunity to show them that you know that you're the expert when it comes to Central Ohio real estate or whatever city that they're looking in. And then what this does is it positions you and puts you in a strength of authority so that they then are going to listen to you, right? Now, how I do it, and again, you guys can change this part, but how I personally do it, because this is how I am. Again, I like to coach agents on prospect how you want to be prospected. Because I personally never like being or feeling rushed to sign something right then and there, especially if it's an exclusive. I always say, hey, we went over a ton, right? Take this information home. The only thing that I ask is that this exclusive agreement is signed before we do our next showing. And if I never hear from them ever again, I wasted maybe an hour and a half of my time, but I got face to face and I was able to educate someone. But what you'll find, I think in the course of my 15-year career, I think I've had less than three people. The last one that did this, I think, was 3 years ago. And they were actually a referral from one of my investor clients, where I literally sat down with them and then they never responded to anything else. They didn't get pre-approved because the third step is now let's get you pre-approved, right? So hey, we looked at one house, we had a consultation about what's happening in the market, who I am, I'm the expert, like all of those things. Here's the value you're going to get. Boom, now let's get you pre-approved. Now the pre-approval, right, is going to tell us what they can and cannot do. You want to get them pre-approved as early in the process as possible, even if they are like, hey, John, I'm like, I just did a consultation Friday night. They're not able to buy until next June, but I want them to get pre-approved now because if they can work on paying off debt, increasing their credit, over the next 6, 7, 8, 10 months, it's just going to give them better financial options when they are ready to buy. So even if they're further out, you still want to get them and encourage them to get pre-approved. Here's why. It will tell us what you can do or can't do, right? It'll tell you what you need to do. Hey, do you want the best interest rate possible? A rhetorical question, because who's going to say no to that? Great. Well, hey, one of the things that I suggest is that we actually get pre-approved now because there is a difference between a 700 credit score and a 770 credit score when it comes to interest rate and loans. And so what it gives you as the agent is a little bit more insight as far as what's going on, right? A little bit more direction. And so when you ask things like, hey, is having the best interest rate and the best loan program to make sure that you're paying the least amount when it comes to a monthly mortgage payment, is that important to you? No one should ever say no to that question. One of the things that you guys probably need to work on if you haven't yet is putting a client in those types of situations where if they say the wrong answer out loud, it's a red flag for you. One of the things that I say during our buyer consultation, when in our team presentation, where it talks about here's the benefits and the perks that you get by having a buyer's agent, I use the analogy of, hey, would you hire the attorney, the same attorney that the person that's suing you hired? Everyone says no. Okay, great. So in a real estate transaction, the listing agent actually represents the seller and I represent you. And if you did go to the seller and the listing agent directly, technically they represent the seller first. In a worst case scenario, they become a mutual party and they can't even give advice to you or anyone and they represent no one and they get paid on both sides, right? But I asked the rhetorical question of like, would you hire the same attorney that the person hired that's suing you? And they're like, no. Great. Why would you do that on a real estate transaction when we're talking about 300, 400, 500, 600, $800,000 or up? That makes no sense. But I ask that question because if they say yes, it's a red flag for me. It's not that I'm not going to not work with them, but it might mean I have to work on building better relationship and better trust, right? I might have to try to win them over a little bit more. But that also should be a red flag of how they might think about other things down the road. So step three is getting pre-approved. When I got into the business, and I think there's still people to this day that teach, I'm not doing a showing until I have someone pre-approved. Has anyone gone to the grocery store this week? Anyone? Anyone?
I have.
Great.
Yep.
I have. Of
Did they ask you how much you had in your bank account before you walked in the door, put the shit in your cart, and put it on the scanner?
course not.
Right. And so by you guys, if you are doing this of trying to get them pre-approved before that first showing, that's the same thing. And I don't know why
or when, it's probably before my time, the real estate industry had this thing of like, oh, I'm not showing homes until I know that they're pre-approved. Anywhere else that we do in our life as a human, we're not getting pre-qualified for before it happens. Go car shopping. They don't take you to the finance department first. No, they say, oh, what car do you want to see? Here, open the door, sit in it. Do you want to take it for a test drive? Let's talk about the features. Let's talk about the technology. Let's talk about the warranty, right? Like the financing part is the very last part. And so everywhere in our life, we don't have to get pre-approved before we do something. Now, there is steps in that process, right, that we will eventually have to prove that we have the money to do it or that we can do it. But I don't know why our industry adopted that so many years ago. Um, but it's creating too much friction if you guys are doing that on the front end. And then the last thing is, and I prep them during the buyer consultation. There's a point where you guys probably need to inject in before you ever get to the agreement. Hey, just so you know, I am going to ask you to sign an exclusive agreement with me that I can represent you on any property moving forward. And then we all have cancellation clauses in the buyer agreement. And then typically I say something along the lines of, in the event that you think that I suck at my job or you don't like me, and I literally say suck at my job because I'm going to get them to laugh, right? A lot of times they just chuckle a little bit. Hey, if you ever think I suck at my job or you don't like me, because I know sometimes personalities don't work, you can cancel this agreement at any time. So I literally say that at an earlier part of the presentation before I ever get to the agreement, so the agreement's not a surprise. But I make it lighthearted. I don't dive deep into it in that moment. I just simply say, hey, I am going to ask you to sign an agreement to work with me exclusively. In return, you're going to get all of these things that we went over. But if you do think I suck at my job or you don't like me or whatever the case may be, we can rip this up and go our separate ways. Here's the cancellation the clause, right? And then they sign the exclusive. And here's what happens. And this is what we want. And this is the idea that you need to accept. Each one of these steps is a filter for you. You want to lose people at step one. Those are probably going to be the people that are going to waste your time, don't respect your time, right? If they're late, no show you, whatever the case may be, cool, not my person. Awesome. You're going to do a showing for some people, and then you're going to try to set that buyer consultation. Hey, the next step in my process with all of my clients is I like to sit down with them and get them educated on the home buying process, what's happening in today's real estate market. And I truly believe, and no one can convince me otherwise, that real estate changes every single day. Interest rates go up, interest rates go down. That alone changes real estate. Prices go up, prices go down. Houses get on the market, houses go in contract, houses close, houses get expired and canceled. The market changes daily, right? So, hey, I like to educate all my clients on the home buying process, today's real estate market, and some of the programs and some of the programs and things that I provide my clients that will save them thousands of dollars as they go through the home buying process. And if they say no to that, red flag on motivation, right? Because again, if they're truly a motivated client, they should not say no. Another rhetorical question. They should not say no to those three things. They should not say no to understanding the process, understanding today's market, and how they could potentially save thousands of dollars as they go through the home buying process because they decide to work with you. So you're going to lose people at step two. Great. Then you're going to get step three. There's going to be some people, when you get to step three, you're going to lose people. They don't qualify, right? Or they don't like the mortgage payment, or they just can't afford enough for what they want. And so you're going to lose people there. And very, very, very rarely, if you get that person through step one, step two, and step three, will you actually lose them on step four? Very rarely. In 15 years, I think it has happened less than 5 times for me. And I seriously mean that. Like, I think it's like when you take people through this, I want to lose people during each one of these steps because the person that gets to step 4, one, these are filters. I'm making them jump through hoops, right? The other thing is I'm getting them to listen to me. Hey, let's do this showing. Great. Hey, next step, you got to come to my office and meet with me. They say yes to that. Hey, step 3, get pre-approved. They say yes to that. Step 4, yes. Hey, I agree to work with John. Guess what that does long term when you get to the point of writing offers, negotiating terms, working through inspections, working through remedies, dealing with appraisals, doing final walkthroughs. They're not going to agree with you every single step of the way, but because you positioned yourself as the authority figure when it comes to real estate, and because you've had them go through these hoops, and because they've had many yeses, if you guys ever dive into like sales, a lot of sales presentations, you get people to say many yeses because if they say many yeses to you through the process, they can't say no at the end. Because if they say no at the end, that either means they lied to you during the process, right? Because when they say yes, 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 boom, hey, am I the right agent for you? Yes. And this same thing can apply on your listing presentations. You got to inject many yeses into your presentation. So at the end, when you say, let's sign paperwork, I'm the right agent for you, they don't say no. I'll open it up for questions. Alex R., I know you have your hand raised. Alex, are you with us? Does anyone else have questions on that?
Question, yes, it helps establish you as a professional, right? Because you have a professional place to go to. But it also is kind of setting the pace, like you're asking them to do things, and that's kind of helping them follow that direction, right? If they're not going to jump through the hoops to come to your office or kind of fill out the paperwork or let you do a consultation, that's a major red flag, at least it is for me. Now, have there been times where, let's say, I live in Dublin, they live in Dublin? Am I going to have them drive all the way to Westerville? Probably not. But I'm going to meet somewhere like a Starbucks or somewhere that I can have internet connection and try to do it at an off time where you know it's not going to be super busy. But I always say, hey, I have an office in Westerville. If you'd like to meet there, we can. However, due to constraints of, travel or, your office hours or whatever that looks like, would it be better if we met somewhere closer to where we both are? So, does that help?
Sorry, the office Wi-Fi kicked me off. Yeah, Barb's right. And here's the thing. Let me ask you guys this. Do you believe you guys are true professionals? Anyone tonight?
Yes. Yes.
Anyone else? Like actual, legit, true real estate professionals.
100%.
Yes.
Yep.
Do you guys believe that an attorney is a true professional in what they do? Now, there are shitty attorneys, right? Just like there are shitty real estate agents. But do you guys believe that attorneys in your belief system that they are professionals?
Yes.
Yes.
How about doctors? How about financial
Yes.
advisors? Right? How about like anything else where we are less educated in that space? You guys have to believe to your core, that you are on the same line as an attorney, how people view attorneys and how people view doctors. Like you have to truly believe it. You can't just say it, right? You can't just say, "Oh, I'm a professional." In today's world with technology, we do a lot of things on Zoom, so I get it. But the reality is the majority of the time, like when I had to get my wisdom teeth cut out, they didn't say meet me at fucking Starbucks. Now, does that happen? Yes, right? Like sometimes it's just what we do. Um, but same thing with like going to the hospital, right? Going to the doctors, going to an attorney's. Like a lot of times you are going to them and you're willing to make that drive because you need the thing that you believe that they have, right? That resource. Or you simply know that they know more than you in that space. And so that has to become a core belief in what we're talking about. Guys, we're moving into a very different real estate market. It's no longer put signs in yards and get paid. It's no longer buyers going, 50 grand, waiving appraisals. Are some of those things still happening? Yes. But we just shared yesterday, there's 5,700 plus active listings. The number of in contracts over the last 2 weeks actually went down. Closings were sitting around 18,000 year to date. Buyers are becoming more wishy-washy. Sellers are harder to deal with right now. And to Barb's point, right, I got back in the room halfway through. You are the professional. You should be leading and setting the direction of how this process should go. You should have the process. The client should follow the process. Now, the client gets to make the decisions, but this is your business. You're the expert. You know more than them. And if you don't know more than them, that's why you're here. That's why you have all of us. Pick up the phone, make a phone call. One of our agents literally went on a listing, and one of the things she's like, well, what happens if they ask me how many homes I've sold in this area? I said, tell them, look, I'm brand new or I'm newer to the market, but I've already sold X number of homes since I got licensed in January. But here's what I did to help protect my clients. I actually joined a team that sells hundreds of homes every single year, right? So when I don't know the answer, I'm going to tell you I don't know the answer, but I'll get it to you within 2 hours. And so clients will make decisions, but they got to follow your process. And then you have to believe that you are just as important to that buyer or to that seller, just like they would view their attorney, their financial advisor, or their doctor. And that's a mental thing.
And I want to make one other point going back to the consultation. Um, you know, back when I started during the dinosaur years, the number of homes that we had on the market back in '07 to about 10, we had anywhere from 9,000 homes up to 20,000 homes on the market. So it's very important on these consultations that you completely hone in and take the time to find out what their needs are versus their wants. And if the needs have to be deal breakers, right? So yes, they may want a fireplace. However, they don't need a fireplace. What they need is 3 bedrooms. And you have to find out what's important to them about those needs because there were times back in that period where you had 50 to 100 homes to show them. And you think that spinning your wheels when you make offers during the time when we had no listings, you're going to be showing more properties. The more listings that we had, the more properties you're going to show and be spinning your wheels and your $4 gas, a gallon, then if you just take that 1 hour to 2 hour time on the consultation to really hone in what they want and what their needs are. Does that make sense?
Barb, that's spot on, right? Like, and here's where agents will get caught. And I was this agent early in my career. Once you get past like showing them, and if anyone has experienced this, feel free to unmute and jump in on this. Once you probably get past showing them 4 to 6 houses, it's hard to get them to stop and actually do a consultation.
And I do think, John, it's a fair statement to make during the consultation to tell those potential clients, hey, most people choose a home between 3 and 5 houses. Most, on average, a buyer's going to look at 3 to 5 homes before they make a decision. Set that expectation up front. Now, that may not always hold true. However, if you're out on your 10th or 12th or 15th showing, you can say, "Boy, you're way above average on that." Kind of make a joke about it because then it kind of reels them back into what that statement was back at the time of meeting, and they're going to start feeling kind of not pressured, but they're going to be more conscious about what it is they're looking for.
And Barb, I think to that too, right? You give them permission by saying, hey, and here's the thing, most people want to be led, right? So Barb saying that in her presentation is just saying, hey, I'm giving you permission to say, yes, this is the one on house number two, right? Or house number three, or house number one.
House number one. If it meets all the criteria.
Yeah. And so Barb's giving them permission. Hey, based off of my clients that I work with, typically they're picking a house between house number three and house number five, or within the first 7 homes, or within the first five, whatever you guys want it to be, right? And that's just giving them the okay of like, this is just how things are done. That's the thing with the buyer process, the four-step buyer process. I say, hey, this is what I like to do with all of my clients, not some of my clients, all of my clients. This is just how we do it. Barb simply saying, hey, typically my clients, they like to make decisions within 3 to 5 homes that we see. And the process that we go through, typically they're going to send me a house. I'm going to go through the house, meaning look on the MLS based off of what our conversations were, needs versus wants. I'm going to bring up those concerns to you before we ever make the drive, so I'm not wasting your time. Now, the reality is we don't want to waste our time, right? But like, so that I'm not wasting your time, AKA the client's time. And because here's the thing, and this is why I always tell every agent to go out and show as much as possible, even if it's for other agents. You will now be able to know from photos that floor plan, room size typically, right? Because you've been in other homes in that area in that time frame of when it was built. You know how, like, 1985 two-story in Worthington is a pretty standard floor plan across Worthington and that era. And so then what you can say is, hey, remember when we saw 123 Main Street and you mentioned that bedroom 3 was too small? Well, this house, because of the square footage and the location and where it's at, like it's going to have that third small bedroom. Are you sure you really want to go and see it? As inventory increases, it's making decisions for the buyers harder. How do we take that away? Not take it away from them, but how do we make that decision process a little bit easier on them?
And
And
I
it,
think yeah, I think it's important too to say my job isn't to show you every home that fits within your budget criteria. My job's to hone in exactly what it is that you need versus what you want. Your time's very valuable, and I don't want to waste it. I want to make sure that I'm showing you the right homes that fit your needs. Does that make sense? And you tie them down on a question like that, they're always going to say yes. They're not going to say, well, I want to look at all 600 homes. No, they don't. They don't have the time or the bandwidth.
especially in today's world where people love speed, people will pay for speed, people will pay for convenience. How many of you guys DoorDash? How many of you guys Instacart, right? Like I'm guilty every single day. Or you know what I mean? Like I'll pay the price to have it come delivered to me. And so if you can adopt that mindset, one of the things that I used to do when I was just selling was every morning I would look at the MLS and I would literally handpick properties and I would send them to my active people. Hey, what do you think about this one? I think this one works. Here's why I think it works. If they send you something, hey, this one does work, or hey, this one doesn't work. Here's why it doesn't work for you based off of our conversation. And when they send you things like that, then you just simply say, hey, have things changed? Have your needs, to Barb's point, have your needs and wants, have they changed?
And I would say too, like, when you're doing that, because part of that discovery process is not only what in the house needs to work, but one of the questions I always ask is when you're talking about local example, years ago, I had a client that they were older clients that looked after their adult son with schizophrenia, and they needed a first floor master for themselves because they were older and didn't want to do steps, but they also needed a separate living space, bedroom, living area for their adult son. I mean, he was in his 30s, so they didn't really want to hang with him all the time, right? So asking that question, but oftentimes they don't think, they may not say. So for example, I just closed some clients last month who said, this is what we want in Dublin. We want newer, blah, blah, blah. They were looking at townhomes over in Bridge Park. Now they're in their mid 60s and I'm in that age. I don't want steps. Okay. I'm thinking long term, what's my next goal? Because this was going to be a long time place for them. So I said, I know you don't want this area in Dublin. However, I think it really would behoove you to go take a look and give me a half an hour to an hour with this builder rep to go look at the homes over here that they have for sale. That's what they ended up buying because they had first floor masters. They were brand new. They never had explored the area. And they were just like astonished that I knew what it was they wanted before they ever left their house. So the more you get out there and look at homes or meet with these builder reps to know what product they have or inventory, you're going to be able to narrow things down a lot quicker for people. I hope that helps.
Yeah. And so how does this tie back into the success cycle, right? Has anyone gone through that process, that four-step process from start to finish? And when I mean finish, like the client actually closed? I'd be curious to hear, like, if it was easy. Some will still be challenging, right? But then compare that to someone that didn't go through that process with you. And what are the differences? Has anyone, I know Barb has because Barb's an OG. Has anyone else gone like start to finish, four-step buyer process with a client?
Yeah, I have a few times, and I definitely have done not a few times, and there is a huge difference in how the transaction plays out. And I just feel like different things that come up during it. You definitely have a better stance when they're prepared and you're prepared and you've already had that conversation.
And so it goes back to the success cycle, right? And so now probably Ava, like me for sure, and Barb for sure, but now Ava's probably experiencing some of that right action, gets the right results, that's building her certainty around, yes, I need to make sure that this is a constant thing that then shows her the higher potential of like, if we just execute on this every single time, right? I'm saving time, making more money, right? Less time, increase in ROI. Uh, Getting the client the result. Client is actually happy. Client is actually listening, right? Client actually then refers people to me. And then it makes her want to probably take more of the right action again. And so this is the second thing, right? Like someone can't tell me that leads suck, and no one can tell me that buyer consultations don't work and this four-step process doesn't work. Now it's just whether or not you guys want to believe in it, to then see the potential, to then take the right action, to then make sure that you're getting the right results. We got 4 minutes. Any other questions before we jump off? Any thoughts? Anything that stood out to you?
Hey Jay, I just wanted to share that I know we talked about this weeks ago, well, probably months ago. But I was on step 2 of this process and we were I was asking for the appointment, if you will, for the buyer consult, and I had given them options of whether to meet in person or to do a Zoom. And I remember you mentioning to me that you never offered a Zoom because it shows, it speaks to what you said earlier about them showing the initiative to make the drive to the office. I personally had never thought of that because I thought me providing convenience via Zoom would be a value add. But I like how you broke that down. So I haven't offered a Zoom since.
And again, it's situational, right? So like the Friday call I did, they have a 2-month old. And so we did the call based off of when the baby was supposed to be down for bedtime. Now, that being said, jumped on the call. Guess who was on the call? 2-month-old baby. Guess who? Now, mom seemed to be engaged, but mom was also holding her 2-month-old. And you know what's crazy is people will take 4 hours off of work to make sure that they're home to get their internet installed, right? To have a contractor come out and give a quote. Like they will miss work for those things. And yet agents feel that they can't ask someone to drive to their office to talk about probably the largest investment that they're ever going to make in their lifetime at that moment. And it's just because it's the belief system of us as real estate agents, right? The value that we bring to the table is not opening a door for a showing. It's what's up here that we know, right? And if someone's willing to lose 4 hours of pay to make sure that their internet gets fixed or to make sure that they meet a contractor there for flooring or whatever the case may be, and they're not willing to come to you in some form of fashion to talk about how I can make sure I can save you money and here's the process of what it's going to look like to buy in today's real estate market. And oh, by the way, here's what's happening with rates and the economy and buyer confidence. And here's how sellers are thinking about selling properties right now. Like, if that doesn't get you guys like scratching your head, thinking about one, just respecting your time more, right? Like, I'm cool with giving a freebie. Give them the 30 minutes, but after that, all right, it's time to respect my time because I'm the professional. Justin, I love that you've kind of taken that approach of in person, at the office.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that. And I mean, to what you just said, we do have the conversations of things like people having a 2-month old, and things like that. But I don't necessarily offer that option initially unless it's obvious, like in your situation is a great example that there was a variable that needed to be addressed.
Yeah. All right, cool. Thanks, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Hopefully this, gave you guys some more insights and will, change the way that maybe you look at the business. Just a reminder, tomorrow at 8 a.m., we do have the Agent HQ Clubhouse call. So feel free to share that amongst your EXP friends in our downline on the teams. And we will see you guys tomorrow morning.